Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Wednesday, halfway through the week. We are so excited and grateful that you've carved out this hour of the morning to be able to kind of join this conversation. My name's Sally. So I'm one of the originals of the Smart Families team. I'm just so, just have these moments of total gratitude when I look as we're entering into the end of year 3 of our program and our mission at just the work that God has been doing through us and just in front of us. It's just incredible. And this really is designed just to be a call of celebration. I got connected to Andrew, who I'll officially introduce shortly, but I got connected with Andrew, gosh, it was kind of maybe a year or 2 ago now, and just felt so much alignment with what he was leading with Humanality and what kind of we were doing at Smart Families. And so I just thought, what a great way to conclude our series of online talks is to just bring his wisdom and his insight, and then hopefully give parents and people listening in some tangible tools that we can use over the summer. Because I will hold my hands up and say there are moments where I feel like I am limping towards this finish line. A few weeks left to go of school, but at the same time, as elated as I am at the prospect of kind of shedding some of our school routine, I, as many of you are aware, have 3 of my own children, 15, 14, and 11. And then I think, okay, well, what am I supposed to do over the summer? Because I'm like every other parent, there are screens in our house. How do I make sure that we are staying connected and going to enjoy our time together rather than having kind of this very pervasive technology potentially do the opposite to those things? So I'm always very transparent, I live and breathe this for work and I live and breathe this at home. So I have a lot of compassion for parents. It can be a little bit daunting thinking about how we're going to make it through the summer and all of this time that we have at home. So I'd love actually to begin whilst my team do a little introduction, and sometimes it's kind of nice to put names and faces together because you probably see little things here and there. And I know we have schools all over Texas and in different states. And so you maybe aren't as familiar with some of the people who work in the other areas. So as my team introduce themselves, any parents, educators, family who are on the call, I'd love you to just jump in the chat and just write a quick note, like, how are you feeling about this summer? Because you may be somebody is like, yes, I can't wait to be out of this routine. But you might also be somebody who's kind of feeling a little bit of that dread, like, oh, I've got a lot of time I need to fill and how are we going to make the most out of it? So please jump in the chat. You can just write a little sentence or two if you are able, but I'd love to just do a very quick kind of like roundup of the team. So I can see Ashley, her camera is on. So Ashley, do you want to just do a very quick introduction about who you are?
Sure, absolutely. I'm Ashley Hartman, and I am a Smart Families Implementation Coordinator. So I basically work with the schools and get events planned and geared up and create some of the content and all kind of things. We all kind of wear different hats around here. But I have 2 little girls, 2nd and 3rd grade. And before I came to Smart Families, I was a middle school teacher, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So I'm super passionate about teens and technology and how it affects them. So.
Ashley, I can see Patrice. Patrice, if you want to take.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Patrice Hall. I'm the Regional Director of the North Texas area. I have Dallas and Fort Worth. Next year, we'll be adding the Diocese of Tyler and a few other schools in the North Texas area. I have 4 children aged 25 to 17, and I've seen the battles with all of this firsthand through their lens, through my lens, and I'm very excited to be here this morning. Thank you.
Douglas, we have Douglas on the call too.
Hi, I'm Douglas. I'm the marketing and digital media guy here at Smart Families. I'm also a former teacher. I actually left teaching because of smartphones and the tech tether that is on a lot of students these days. I'm very excited for this talk. Glad you're all here.
Thanks, Douglas. Sarah B. I can see Sarah.
Hi, good morning. I am Sarah Baker. I'm an implementation coordinator for Smart Families. I am also a mom of 7. My oldest is 31, my youngest is 13. So I have parented through this whole experiment that we are all living through. Prior to Smart Families, I worked in advocacy with law enforcement. And so I've seen, both the unhealthy aspects, but also the dangers. And so I love getting to get in and teach students and parents how to use technology safely. And I'm excited to be here as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, Alison.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Stasny. I also wear a lot of hats here at Smart Families. My primary function is working with new schools, churches, parishes, to tell them about Smart Families and help determine if it is a worthwhile partnership for both parties, and then bringing those entities on board. I also serve as an implementation coordinator and have a hand in many other projects. I'm the mom of 4, ages 14 down to 7. So I'm very ingrained just personally in the world of technology and how it's affecting kids and students and peer groups. We are a proud tin can family. If anybody's familiar with the tin can phones, that's been a huge blessing to our family. And I'm just very excited to hear from Andrew this morning. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Alison. And Paula. Hi, Paula.
Hello, yes. My name is Paula Benitez. I've been working with Smart Families for more than 1 year now. I am the bilingual coordinator with any Spanish needs that schools require. I also translate the information that we produce. And I also am a coordinator with some schools here in Houston, and some of those are in Colombia. I'm looking forward to more countries, Hispanic countries coming up. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. See, my team love me because I didn't tell them I was going to do that. So they know I've just put them on the spot saying hello. But we have a few other team members whose cameras aren't on, so I am going to respect that maybe they're doing other things. But I basically wanted to do that because we have Andrew here who's talking about humanality, and I just wanted to show you the humans behind Smart Families. I think often organizations they find themselves in a place of content creation, and we are so relational, like not only as a team, but just the work that we do within the schools. And so I just wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce our humans. So without further ado, this is being recorded. I just wanted to let everybody know, and then we can have this available for later on. But the talk, the final concluding talk for Smart Families is about faith, digital detox, and practical habits for deeper connection, virtue, and intentional technology use. And really, this idea was we just wanted to have a more of an intentional conversation about what that looks like with regards to our faith. We love to tie these two very important parts of our lives together. We know technology it is not going away. It's something that we have to learn to use as a tool, and we do a lot of that in our content that we provide. But then a huge part of ourselves is our faith. And so we often hear when we go into these schools and we have these conversations, either with the students or with the parents, that they can often feel like there's this unsteady ground when it comes to faith and like that intersection. So I'm going to do a quick introduction and read Andrew's bio, and then I would love to welcome him to introduce himself, and we will get stuck in. So Andrew, it was the driver behind Humanality, which is a movement dedicated to helping people overcome digital addiction and reclaim their humanity. With degrees in theology and philosophy, Andrew brings a unique perspective to addressing modern technological challenges. His diverse background includes a decade as a touring musician, giving him a global outlook on human connection. And as a national board certified health and wellness coach and personal trainer, Andrew combines his expertise in well-being with Humanality's mission to create practical strategies for digital detox. So Andrew, welcome.
Thanks, Allie.
Yes, so glad to have you here. So that was kind of a very high level overview, but I would love you just to maybe share with us a little bit about just the way that your life's journey and how it led you to Humanality, and what kind of the things that you'd seen prior to that that really made this your mission.
Yeah, I'll try and make that brief because there's a lot to unpack there. But millennial, okay? So I grew up with, AOL Instant Messaging and MySpace in high school. And I had the slide phone and the Razor, and I thought when I flipped that Razor phone, I was the coolest kid on the block, okay? So already at that time, I would say, I started to experience my own negative experiences. And, I got on social media in college at Franciscan, and, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. I mean, this is like right when these things are coming out. And I went on all of them. I experienced all of them. At the beginning, it really was like this amazing connecting tool, right? And then as slowly as it started to progress, we saw the algorithms get very different. All of a sudden, you weren't just seeing your friends on Facebook, you were seeing everything happening in the world. And, I kind of had my reversion to my faith after high school. So that was a huge shift in my own life. I mean, I was, in a very bad trajectory. I would just say you're kind of your average like atheist, partying, rebelling, and no need for religion, But I grew up going to church. It was just I was in an environment that didn't have people living out their faith, right? So St. Paul says that, bad company corrupts good morals. I mean, there's something so huge about how environment impacts our behaviors, our formation, our personalities. And, at the school I was going at, it was a very secular environment, And then I had my church group, and I had confirmation, and I had, mass on Sundays, but was just like not convinced, So once I had my conversion, I mean, it was a huge shift in my desires and in my thinking. I mean, I was watching hours of debates between atheists and Christians, and like wanted to know the Bible is true. And I was watching EWTN, which is like a really old, Catholic, like, TV station that like a 19-year-old dude would never watch, but like I was watching that every day because I wanted to know the truth. And as I went through community college, I transferred to Franciscan University. That's when I started playing a lot of music, and started getting asked to go play places, at retreats, at conferences. I was playing guitar and singing, and that really became my life. So all of a sudden now my life was needing to be portrayed through these platforms, right? So I started posting a lot of my life. And this was just what you did, right? This is like how you grow your following, and see quite a few different effects pretty early on from living a life that I was posting and not living. And the quick ones are all the ones we know now. I was definitely like scrolling more than I should have. It was a ton of social comparison. I really felt the dopamine from that like button. I mean, I look back on it. I've been off of this stuff for like 8 years, so I don't really remember, but I remember it was like physiological. I would keep checking for the like, So fast forward to 2018, I'd say like I'm totally addicted to all of these platforms, and also have like I'm playing music around the world, so like I knew God was calling me to kind of delete everything. It was leading me away from happiness, away from joy. It was affecting my purity. It was like all these things that I knew I had to get rid of. And so I deleted everything in 2018. I went to a flip phone, which, this wasn't cool yet, and no one was really doing it. So I was just this random guy flying all over the world, getting lost places with my flip phone, But noticeable improvements started to happen like that. And actually, I did feel real withdrawal symptoms. I was experiencing the phantom rings. I was experiencing the phantom pickups. I was like I was like, dude, this is crazy that I was looking for, just that hit, the dopamine. But my friendships improved. They got smaller, but they improved. I had better concentration. I had better productivity. My music improved. My sleep got better. My prayer got better. My purity got better. Like all these things improved. And I'm like, this is interesting. Fast forward, to 2023, I came on board with Humanality as the executive director. I was interested in these topics. And mind you, while I was traveling around the country and around the world, I did see the mental health crisis unfold before my eyes. So these are young people coming up to me after retreats. Hey, I'm addicted to pornography. Hey, I'm really struggling with suicidality, depression, anxiety. Like, I definitely saw that happening in front of me. And then at the same time, like, I'm experiencing a lot of these things too. So I got really interested in this subject because one, it was affecting me, and I was like, is anyone else feeling this? Is it like, am I the only one that doesn't like how I feel after I scroll for 4 hours, And yeah, it eventually led me to help start this with some friends. They started this unplugged scholarship at Franciscan University where they paid students scholarship money to give up their smartphone and take a light phone. And all of a sudden, Humanality was born. And then I just took like deep dives into, okay, this is actually bigger than just Franciscan. Like the world needs this and colleges need this. And that's where Humanality got its start. We started clubs on college campuses where groups of students were meeting together and rebelling against the machine, in some way, and starting to take their lives back from tech addiction.
Mhm. Great. You said something there that really stood out to me, and it's when you made the comment about how you would talk about, like, is anybody else feeling this? And I think what's been a really interesting shift with maybe just humans, and this is my observation, is that kind of acceptance of a collective identity, like, oh, well, we're all feeling it. So it almost makes people not be as fearful because they think, well, everybody's feeling it, which is, what God designed for us. I think the way that we are so numbed out to experiences because of what social media and excessive tech can do, and especially to the younger, like the children and the students who are still developing their brains. I think I love the work we do at Smart Families because we almost want to provoke change. We're not like demanding, and we're very clear that we don't ever go into criticize or shame. But I just love that you shared that about, is anybody else noticing this? Because actually people are, but people aren't always want to do anything about it. Go ahead, Ashley.
Yes, I have a question that goes like perfectly with that. So like as you're talking and I'm thinking about exactly like your thought process is just very similar to, like, I feel like we all go there mentally, right? Like this is affecting me. I know I don't feel happier. So I was wondering if you could speak more to how you got from the thought and the realization and like the true conviction to, and how did you get to this space of the real action, and how do you make those changes and get going on that, and was there like an accountability piece to that, or like were you just like that motivated? Like, how do you, because I think there's so many of us that feel that, but then like we struggle with like getting off, or like I'll say like, okay, like I know I shouldn't be sleeping with this thing in my room, and like here I am, right? So like, how do you get to from the conviction to the like real like change,
Yeah, it's a great question. The brief answer would be, I think really identifying your why is huge. So like I've been on techless Wise phones, light phones, flip phones. I have a smartphone. Like I go on the internet. Again, I think what it's so great, like Humanality and Smart Families, is like we're all about intentionality. Like I am not Amish and I don't live in the woods. Okay. Would I love to do that? Yes. Do I? No. I use technology every day in very particular ways for very particular outcomes. But the why to me was big enough to create movement in my life. And I'm very interested in behavior change science, right? Like that's most of my certification study was like motivational interviewing, literature, like, and I love a lot of this data because I think ultimately, like, we do as humans, like, we want to change a lot of things, and like talk about like, we want kids to be like healthy and happy and change their habits, but like most adults are struggling to just change one little thing, whether that's your nutrition or your sleep or movement or something in your relationship. Like it's really hard. So I think first acknowledging like behavior change is really hard. And it's also really difficult because I actually do look at the phone and these different platforms, whether it's gaming, whether it's email, whether it's social media, entertainment, YouTube, whatever. I do see them now physiologically as a drug. So when you shift your mindset and like, okay, this is a drug, okay, like it really does have very similar neuropathway, physiological impacts on the brain. So I have to look at this thing that's physical while I'm not ingesting it. It is having real impact on my psychology, on my social interactions, on my spiritual life. So I think first looking at the human person from a Christian and a Catholic anthropology, what does it mean to be a human person? Okay, that's like a huge question because most of the secular world is breaking the human person down into this mechanistic, parts that isn't looking at the whole, right? So if I'm looking at the whole person that has an intellect, has a will, has a soul, we're embodied souls. So we're actually not just like this ghost in the machine thing. Like this is I am my body soul composite. Like that matters for behavior change because that's going to look different. So I think really understanding your why of why you want to get rid of a certain habit regarding your tech or regarding your scrolling is going to be your greatest predictor of success. And my why was ultimately, I'm trying to actually like think back at that time. Extreme. So I do go like all in on things, whether that's like a sport, I'm a little too competitive, or whether that's like studying or whether that's like the health and wellness things. Like I do have to kind of like go to these extremes and then like narrow into like some functional way to live. But I think the saints were pretty extreme too. And we would look at them and be like, wow, that was a little much, St. Francis. You like jumping in the rose bush because you were, having some lust. Like that's a little extreme. So ultimately, I think the why matters most. I think connecting your why to your values really matters. So for me, what was most valuable for me was ultimately my sanctification, like my holiness, my sanctity. I want to become a saint, so I found for me that, and I talk about this idea a lot. So Sally, I hope you don't get bored of this, but being omnipresent through our technologies was really detrimental to me. So what do I mean by that? On my Facebook feed at the time or Instagram, like I just remember starting to scroll and seeing all of the worst things happening in the world, all in the palm of my hand. That power was made for God. And it is funny on the back of your iPhone, there's the half-eaten apple. Like, what was the lie in the Garden of Eden that you would, the serpent came to Adam and Eve, said, hey, if you eat at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will become like God. I think with the smartphone, particularly on these mediums that open the whole world up to you, you are participating in an attribute of God, namely his omnipresence, that we were just not designed for. You knew what was happening in your village. You knew that Uncle Johnny was running, the farm. You know that Aunt, Barbara was, working wherever, you knew what was happening in your area. Now it's like we have this global village experience that I'd say is a main reason for our high levels of stress as adults and as teenagers. That's a little side note, but I would say getting your why connected to your highest value for you and your family, that's going to help you create that initial leap. And then you're going to like feel great. whatever that leap looks like, whether that is, yeah, keeping the phone outside the bedroom, or maybe
Mhm.
getting off of, your Instagram for the week and just say, hey, on Saturday, I'm going to scroll for 10 minutes. And like, that's my scroll time. There's options, but you need a deeper why.
Mhm.
I love what even how families can embrace the why as a family conversation,
Mhm.
and not only model that to their children, but also I feel like that would really reveal some of the heart of their own children. Something that came to mind as you were talking was my 15-year-old had said, he has YouTube, and he was like, oh, I'm just done with YouTube Reels. And he was like, it's trash. Like and in that moment I could, well, why? Like, why is that? And I think that's such a powerful word that we can help children begin to use regularly, to start to even know what their why is, because it's really hard to know what the why is when you're bombarded with so many streams of information that's trying to tell you what your why is. And so I think keeping that intimate family conversation, like that nucleus, which is what we always say, and having those conversations is a great. And parents, I always say I'm super transparent, because I think children really appreciate transparency from parents too. And I know my children love nothing more than calling me out when I try and give them, the answer that I know from a textbook is how I'm supposed to parent. And they're like, you're not doing that. Like, what? Don't give us that information. And they'll call me out first thing when I'm not being transparent. And I think that's such a heart check for me too. So I think, I really encourage anybody listening to this conversation, like, lift these just amazing little nuggets from Andrew. And these are so easily convertible into family conversations. And with all of that you were just presenting then, I was curious. So with the current digital landscape, and I know we've been referencing the kind of content that children are seeing, even little itty bitties on places like YouTube Kids, up to some of the content that children are being exposed to on places like Discord or TikTok. What is it that concerns you most at a human level?
Yeah, I would say the thing that comes to mind, particularly in the kind of infiltration of these technologies into our, like, every moment of our day, right? Whether it's like at the stoplight or at home or while you're grocery shopping, like the attention thing is a problem. And the dopamine depletion and habituation, and like those are all real things, and those definitely need to be addressed. But I think some of the most alarming information I've kind of read into this realm is actually just like the decrease in social capital that's happening on like every level. So I would say, just like briefly, technology is an incredible gift, right? Like, as humans, we are technology creating beings and co-creators with God. I mean, this is like the beautiful gift about being a human. And funny enough, one of the main thing that, it distinguishes us from every other living creature on the planet is that we can ask why. So that's an incredible gift, and technology is, an incredible tool. The fork is like really helpful. Like, I don't want to get rid of that. Like, I like my car. Now, the car kills thousands of people every year, but I still drive in my car every day. I get on planes. I get on way too many planes. Those crash. Like, we don't really look at the trade-offs mostly as humans. We look at efficiency and convenience and then just go all in, right? So while we have the most amazing, I call them mobile supercomputers. I don't call it like it, that thing you have in your pocket if it's a smartphone, it's a mobile supercomputer. Now with AI on it, it's like unbelievable what it can do. But one of the things that technology has, improved in our life, because I know it's easy to just get like down all the horrible things, but like, it has improved transportation. It's improved the medical field. It's improved communication. It's improved sanitation, engineering. Like, the roads that we drive on, the buildings that we're in, the technology we're on right now, like, these are gifts of technology. But the two places that to me, the real damage is being done is on the psychological and the social. So I think, just to hit one of those, I do think the most, alarming aspect of all this that we're not really thinking about, but our days are getting less and less connected with people, right? You have self-driving cars, you have self-checkout, you have all these different ways now you can just Uber Eat something, which I get as like a parent or just a human being. Like, there's nights that you just need Uber Eats to ship you some food to your house. Okay, that's not a bad thing. But the amount of social capital that's decreasing in our day-to-day, which simply means like our interactions with other human beings, that number is statistically going down. It was around like, I think like 15 to 24-year-olds from like 2008 to like 2020. It was like an average FaceTime. This is the study from the American Time of Usage study. It was about like 160 minutes of FaceTime a day. I'm not talking about the app. I'm talking about like human face-to-face interaction. In those 10 years, it's dropped to like 67 minutes a day, which is a lot and has a lot of like serious ramifications. So I would say why I love what we're doing with Humanality and with Smart Families is that really so much of the ailments that we're experiencing on so many different levels can be remedied through more social capital. So this is in Putnam's book, Bowling Alone, talks about how all these bowling leagues and all the Boy Scouts and all these other places where people used to meet and congregate, churches, they have all decreased. And I really do think the answer is us getting into more human environments together, whether that is sports, whether that's a barbecue, whether that's church. I mean, there's a reason people are going to CrossFit and yoga, okay? Because they're getting human interaction there, So to me, I keep coming back to that one. It has so many other impacts on society and human beings that my hope is that we can actually like leverage technology to get in person more.
Yeah. I'd shared on a previous talk, I'd had an experience, and it's kind of an observation I've been making over the last couple of years, that as people's villages have got smaller or have kind of become an online village rather than these real person, what I can see in some people is this loss of tolerance of seeing groups of people. And so I'm going to give you my personal example. For example, we had some family visiting from England, and my kids were all playing outside. They were like having fun, shrieking, all the noise. And the next minute I get a text message from a neighbor telling me that like the noise is too much. Like, please, the kids are too loud. It's impacting their. And it really struck me as, wow, like children's joy for somebody is now seen as a threat. And I think it's this very, very subtle shift that being in these isolated, online, quiet, worlds where we're not stimulated by other humans actually makes people not tolerate those. And so just my observation is something I'd been noticing, that when kids do get outside, people kind of look a little bit antsy, like, oh, are they going to get in trouble, or are they going to, I'm like, sometimes they're just hanging out outside with their friends. And don't get me wrong, like, I have teenagers, so I know that sometimes they can get off the path pretty quickly. But I think sometimes, just so powerful that we need to be more open and relational with real human beings. So I love that you shared that, and we're very aligned in kind of my thoughts track right with yours on that kind of human level threat too. I'm curious, with Humanality, you've been working a lot with the college age students, and what are some of the impacts you've seen on their faith? And I'm not leading this into a negative, I'm just really from a curious place, have there been any benefits to their faith from tech, social media, or is it that their faith has been kind of derailed a little bit from the stuff that they've been seeing from social media?
Yeah, I think in my experience, that's kind of where I've been traversing the country, flying to university to university. And I mean, from my time at Franciscan till now, I mean, I see a massive shift on campus of just students interacting just on a very human level. You know, everyone's walking around with their ear pods in and looking down at their phones and talking probably to people, but not talking to each other, you know. So there's definitely still like this resilience, I think, where I'm seeing young people are really hungering for the supernatural. And I think at most of these universities I go to, these are also like very like faithful Catholic schools. So they're bringing in a different crowd. But even in that crowd that's like hungry for the supernatural, for God, for spirituality, I see this real battle that they're entering into with their tech. And that's why I think Humanality was really working actually at the university level. And we didn't have to like pay them money anymore to like go through this, right? Like they were willingly like, hey, I want to get out of this. I want to be more human. And the faith is incredibly informative, and there's a long, at least in the Judeo-Christian worldview, I mean, a long history of, you know, creating these practices in your life like silence that are incredibly powerful for you know, battling against the noise that we live in. So I am finding, and I think the literature is like very clear on this, is that, you know, in regarding to faith and pursuing like faith practices, you know, Arthur Brooks has talked about this, many others have, but there is a level of well-being that increases when you're living out your faith. It's just a reality. These people live longer, they're healthier, they're happier. That's, you know, not true across the board for every individual, but as a whole, it is very clear that if you are like pursuing a relationship with God, there's practices that happen like mass or worship or prayer or service that are antidotes to the selfie world that we're living in. So I'm finding a lot of students on campuses that are full on rebellion. I'm talking like throw their phones in a river. That was a student at Benedictine. I always like to share her story. Like she literally got her phone and went to the river, like next to Benedictine, threw it in the river. Like, if anything, I'm not recommending that everyone does that. I'm just saying it is an interesting impulse that this thing is so annoying that they're willing to throw it in a river, you know, which for some students on that campus, they would go into a full-on panic attack if they did that, right? Because your life is now in this device. So I think that faith is playing a huge part in this. I say that the younger population, Gen Z, is the college students that I'm working with. They're incredibly open to a new way of living with technology. I think they don't know how. And these are also COVID kids, right? Like these kids went through COVID in high school, and we are now seeing the effects in colleges, and it is quite alarming on multiple fronts. And I talk with a lot of admin, I talk with a lot of, you know, headmasters in schools and people working with, you know, students at these universities, and it's crazy. I won't name the university, but they're saying that their highest time of traffic on the internet, because they can track all this stuff, is 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and was referencing a student that is struggling with anxiety and depression and all these things, and he actually heard one of my Humanality talks there before and went and asked her, you know, like, hey, like, what's your relationship like with your phone? And she's like scrolling till like 3 a.m. You know, so you're not getting sleep, you're getting blue light in your eyes, you're getting overstimulated sympathetic nervous system, and that's just not human, right? So even on these college campuses that are amazing and faith-filled, there is still incredible amount of fallout from you know, COVID / what that has done to a specific generation. So but I'm also very encouraged. I think that there is definitely an awakening happening of, okay, maybe I don't have to post everything I do to live or to be seen. And now, mind you, these are small little Humanality clubs on bigger college campuses. It's not like everyone's just like going, you know, to these meetings and doing these events, but they are attracting a lot of students. because they can see a difference. Like they would have at some of our universities, they would just have a barbecue where you had to keep your phone at the door, and they would just go and eat food and cook out on Sunday, you know? That sounds crazy that we have to like prescribe that, but that's literally like what we have to do now. It's like give them opportunities like with a plan of like how to just recreate like real leisure. And this is an adult thing too. I think adults are just as addicted as children, by the way. And you just go to an airport, which is most of my life, and it's not like adults are looking around talking to people. I mean, we're all just as much sucked into our own algorithms. But it's funny because I think that young people now, like another quick example, at another university, they had a night where they had a humanality night, no phones, just around a bonfire. People brought food and instruments. And I had students like a year later tell me like that was one of the most fun nights of their life, you know, because they just experienced being together. No one was afraid to get Snapchat or pictured or, you know, posted. Like they literally just got to live like a human being. And these are new experiences for them, you know? So, but I would encourage people too, like with your families, you know, like this is what you can create as well. And it can be really simple. It can just be, hey, for a couple hours on Sunday, like we're just going to have a no phone zone. And if you want to hang out here, we're just going to hang out. Or even like, even to me, it's funny, like even watching actually something together on the television, like without other devices and just actually watching a movie together is kind of a new thing again, you know, to just like have one screen, not two, and just be present to a movie. Like it could be that simple too. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of everything, you know, but I'm getting a little off track. That's what's happening at the university level. That's what's happening at the faith level. And I think there is a resurgence happening of faith, which I think is very exciting.
Yeah, I think some of the most beautiful conversations we've been having on school campuses have really been around how the children and students have embraced St. Carlo Acutis. And we've been having so many, we do student presentations and we go in and we just start by showing his photograph first and they just light up. I mean, it's so incredible and they love to share. And I think for a lot of the students, he really embodies how technology can be the tool that we tell them about, but it's that, you know, seeing that practically walked out by St. Carlo, I think it's just so inspiring for them and just something that they want to be more like him. And so it's been, I think from I know you from the college level, but even from the little itty bitties when we go in to speak to the younger students, like we are feeling that too, and it is really incredibly exciting. We have referenced humanality, and I want to just be mindful and respectful of maybe people who aren't as familiar with what the humanality way is and what is this digital detox. Would you just kind of outline, you know, what is the humanality way and what does a detox look like?
Yeah, so as I was diving into all the literature on all these books on all of this happening, I was really trying to get an insight. Okay, like what do we do? Okay, because I'm like, okay, we're launching these clubs. I'm going all over the place. Like these students need to know the information I'm reading because it's going to empower them to make a change. Like, you know, when you find out that these, you know, tech companies are not giving these products to their own children, right? Or when you find out like every major tech founder went to a Waldorf school himself, that was a low tech to no tech school, you start to find out the incentives. You start to learn a little bit more on the science behind how we're getting addicted to these products. This is not by chance. This is all by design. It definitely does wake you up and give you some more momentum for a greater why of why we ought not give these technology platforms so much of our time, right? So as I was studying all these different books and all this, I'm like, man, I need to create like the antidote to this. And again, in our Humanality Detox, we're looking at movement, we're looking at the obesity epidemic, we're looking at lighting, we're looking at sleep, we're looking at relationships, you know, silence, connectivity, friendship, because technology is having an impact on all that. I mean, I do, you know, share, we're kind of living in a Wall-E world now. I think that movie was incredibly prophetic in a lot of ways. So it's not just like get off your phone, get off your screens. It's like, how do we be healthy humans? Like, what does our biology need? We weren't, Dr. Cardara says this, we weren't designed to be sedentary, screen staring, meaning devoid creatures. Okay, so the Humanality way are 11 ways that I created. I looked at all this different literature. I'm like, man, technology is having an impact on everything, like every aspect of our human experience. What's the antidote? So these 11 ways, to me, are the insights you need, the information you need, and then the practical habits you can build to counteract the negative effects and trade-offs of some of our technological advances. So the Humanality Way is a 12-week course. It's 11 episodes. It's me interviewing scientists, philosophers, theologians, psychologists, unpacking a plethora of the problems that are unfolding and then what you can do about it. So with that, we have our Humanality Journal and Water Bottle Challenge. So each week, the students take on, and families are going through this. We've had universities, high schools, like they're in it now. But each week there's a challenge, right? So you watch, there are 11 B's. So for example, the first one's be light. We go deep into light science, circadian rhythm. We weren't designed to live in fluorescent lighting environments. That children today are spending more time indoors than some maximum security prisoners. Okay, and I would say adults are on that trajectory too. Like, we need light. We need full spectrum sunlight. This is I'm like a huge light nerd. Okay, so I'm gonna not go deep into the light science right now, but I'm a huge light nerd. It says in the scriptures, God is light. I'll stop there. But for example, that week, you watch Be Light, and then you take on a challenge. You take on mindful meals. So that week, the students will not look at the phone for their meals for the week, which if you just add up that time, say you have an hour meal each day, which I know humans don't today, we're just frantically, trying to get food in, in between kids, sports, games, work, everything. But let's just say that was an hour a day. It adds up to something like 70 days of your year, right? You get back if you just don't scroll while you eat. So that challenge that week is just mindful meals. You accomplish that goal. At the end of the week, you put that mindful meals sticker on your water bottle, and you took on that challenge. And each week there's different correlating challenges. We call them personal real life victories, because if you cannot look at your phone for 3 meals during the day, that's a victory. Okay. Other things like digital bedtime, putting your phone to bed at 9 p.m. or whenever you go to bed in another room. There's focused fitness. There's so that's going to work out, with no ear pods, no nothing. I know it's terrifying, but just go exercise, go on a walk without any headphones. I mean, students really freak out about that one. That one really gets them. And then there's community adventures. So these are things you do together. So you have the habits you're building yourself, and then you go on adventures together with friends. And those are the phone-free hikes. Those are the Sunday sticker, go out in the sun on Sunday. You like that? Okay, I thought that was fun. There's sauna and ice bath. There's a stargazing night. All these different human things that we would do that we're wanting to reintegrate in your life. So it's really designed to help you get as much insight as you can on the problems and then create real lasting change in your life. And the whole point is that you do it together with people, right? This is the whole point. But the 11 ways dive into a ton of different data. And you're also hearing from students throughout. So each episode, there's students that have been through our digital detox at the university level, and they're sharing their stories. So it's really cool because it's young people sharing their stories. I'm not giving them a script, of what to say. It's their own experiences of detoxing. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the experience.
Yeah. And I love whenever I've tried to implement anything new with my children, sometimes we feel that friction at first because, if I've made an observation that I do feel like tech is starting to infiltrate our family in a way that is not what, God has designed for, we just find ourselves bickering and just all that friction. They don't always like the change that we might be about to do. And I think what I love about the Humanality way is, whilst most, traditional detox, and there's an abundance of these like screen detox, but it's always about the deprivation, like it's the taking away, and not a lot of people focus on actually what you are opening up the opportunity to do instead. And so I think there's so much power in the be statements, because you're actually inviting somebody to be more of what God designed you to be, rather than this kind of like deprivation state of like you're losing things. And one of the things I'm about to share with the parents and people who are joining us on this talk is we are about to release our summer blueprint, which is essentially like a little bit of a plan. And I always like to think like I'm that person on, I think, oh, I'm going to do more of this. And unless I put myself little reminders or guardrails in, like I have very formed neural pathways for my old behaviors and habits. So I have to give myself a little bit of a boost. Like for example, I have to put my gym clothes out before I'm going to work out the night before, because that's going to hold me accountable. And so we've created a summer blueprint, and it's one of these and I'm going to come back to you in a second, Andrew. You remind me of this while you were talking, but I want to just show you. Are you able to see this screen at all? Yeah. Okay. Yep. So this is our Smart Families summer blueprint, and we're going to have this available. We will mail this out to people who attended. But this is just kind of a very simple way of establishing, how can we have a successful summer? We can take into account these be statements, to be outside, be light, be moving, and then how can we apply them, to our family? So identifying what are our summer goals, what are some of our tech guardrails, what is a way that we're going to seek daily connection, and that's daily, even down to every single day across the summer. Then we've got the weekly family time. What are some of these things that we can do? Our faith anchors, and these are some of our non-negotiables. So what are we going to try and embed through our faith, either daily and weekly? And then we also have like a boredom plan, because I hear that word so many times to my children, like I'm bored or this is boring. So help them be part of the solution of finding out, well, how do we overcome feeling that way, which isn't always, by the way, a negative thing at all. Like children need to feel bored. It's very important. And then our if-then plan. So if this happens, what can we do, or what can a consequence be? And then our summer commitment. And so I just wanted to share, this is something that we've kind of very mindfully put together here at Smart Families as just something that is a great conversation to have at the dinner table. And I'm going to stop sharing. I think being preemptive of the summer, I'm all about being proactive rather than reactive. I think when we get to a point in the summer where we just think, oh my goodness, this is, I feel like I'm losing control over, everything that we're doing. So this might be a really great way that you can just start strong in the summer and use this document with your family and, stick it on the refrigerator and just be a really inclusive practice about, setting yourself up for your own habits. Very quickly on habits, that's my last question, then I will open it up in case anybody has any other questions for you. Is there, what would you say is like the highest impact habit that somebody can maybe either change or like whatever it might be, but that has the most impactful kind of outcome? So like you see the most change. Is there anything in your experience from doing the digital detoxes and having these conversations and the learning? Like, is there one thing, or I'm curious?
I actually do hear most often that the evening, like digital bedtime, tends to be the biggest bang for your buck. So like whatever time you go to bed, just like even just an hour, put the phone in another room, put it on airplane mode, and like just give yourself an hour to wind down, to read, to connect with someone, to journal, to pray, to be, so I think that's probably the biggest one I hear. And I do think even for me, I would scroll myself to sleep. Like I hear students are obviously still doing that, waking up multiple times in the night, checking texts. And yeah, I think that for most people, it's going to be really great. And that's scary at first, right? Because you're kind of just used to always having this thing next to your bed or it's your alarm clock. So like we've launched at, some seminary and schools, and like we literally bought all these guys like analog alarm clocks, Garmin GPSs for their car, and watches, like physical watches, right? Because everyone's like, well, I don't know the time, or I need an alarm clock, or I don't know how to get anywhere. So we kind of gave these guys like all three of these like tools. So there was no excuses. And that was probably, yeah, one of the most impactful portions that I hear from a lot of people. And I'm coaching people too on some of this. And that evening time is tough. It really is tough. Because, yeah, we want that. Yeah. We think it's like de-stressing us, but in reality, it's like increasing stress in us. So it's a very weird experience, because it feels like after a long day, man, you just want to like scroll or check the news or like stuff, you know. But I would encourage, just protect that 1 hour before you go to bed and see what it feels like.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. We have a few minutes left. I don't know whether anybody had any questions. You're welcome to unmute or switch your cameras on and ask Andrew directly. I can see that. Thank you for those that shared in the chat as well. I can see some mixed feelings, keeping busy and entertained, happy to have the fun camps, changing commutes, finding the balance, scheduling activities and unstructured time at home. Oh, our Ashley, can't wait for the mornings and evenings as a family to not be busy. I think that's definitely what I'm feeling too. And so working full time, very similar to a school time schedule. And then we have Bear. Yeah, we're seeing this as well across the school networks. Just you know, the children and the students, they kind of get it now. You know, they understand, and if we ask them to explain some of the things that they find challenging, like, they're pretty forthcoming at telling us what those things are. And they're definitely hungry for, but tell us what to do about it, which is why I love, like I said, these B statements, like really simple, tangible ways that you can elicit some huge change.